From chaos to clarity, this is life beyond the line.
Getting up to mischief until I was 28. I used to go into meetings when I first got clean, and there's kids in there, 15, 16. Thought I was the old Bill undercover. They're not all men. what are you doing in there? Oh, I need to recover it. You mean recovery? What do you mean you need recovery? The reality is, I was old. I was 38 when I got sober. So I was 10 years in the madness, proper 10 years. And prior to that, that's what I was getting to. Prior to that, I just had my head down. I was addicted to work. I was really successful. And because when you get really successful, you have plenty of time on your hands or plenty of money in your pocket. Yeah. So I ended up at 36, still in business. That's all that, from having nothing as a kid to having all this dough, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can hit the playgrounds of the world now. And it went in 2 years, off a cliff. Missus left me, kids left me, well, with the kids. I've been fortunate enough though, I've kept some properties. So I was able to, so I didn't lose financially, really anything. I wasn't robbing the kids' piggy banks, I wasn't having old ladies over, I wasn't conning people. Everything I was doing, and that's why I had a lot of thinking to do, because I thought, what I'm doing is, I'm doing it to me, I'm not taking it off anybody. So what harm is it to anybody? Not realising part of the problem is I'm killing their family at the same time, because we know it's a family illness. Me doing what I did doesn't mean it's going to keep the kids and everybody else safe. So she left me, and the rest is history.
And it's mad, isn't it? Insane that, like you just touched on, while you're doing that, you think you're okay because you just touched on you wasn't robbing, or you was getting on with your life, you had a successful business.
Yeah.
But like you say, going around, you was destroying the loved ones unknowingly.
Absolutely, not realising. We're running now.
Yeah, go on, I'm gonna...
Because there's things I can say that... Anyway, go on.
So anyway guys, welcome to Life Beyond the Line, episode 11. Just a little brief introduction there to Simon, today's guest. Very humbled and honoured to have Simon on today's episode. He was at my very, very first meeting almost 28 months ago, and that was something that stuck in my head all this time, getting well, and to reconnect with him today is an honour, and it really is a privilege to have him sat here today. So welcome, Simon.
Thank you for being invited to your house.
No, thank you for coming.
Honoured to be here.
Who are you today, Simon?
A different person than I was 24 years ago. I like to help people today in the sense of not just recovery, just where I can give, I give, where I can change my thinking rather than taking, I give back. Life's good. Yeah. I've got 3 grown-up children, a partner that I've been with for 18 years, maybe 19 years. I've got to check that out, I can't remember. So, and the partner has never seen me, have a drink or get up to any mischief, because the programme I work today, the 12-step programme, which we all know, has kept me straight over the years. So the children have grown up, they've never seen me in any form of falling all over, causing havoc. My eldest son, who's 29, got married last year, an amazing wedding. I never had one moment I thought I'm missing out on the toast or the celebration. It was just amazing to be there. In fact, I kept crying all day. There's the difference. Happiness. People say, stop crying. No, I was crying because I was happy.
Just genuinely happy.
Oh, mate, it's been a pleasure working a programme.
So you're 24 years sober.
Almost 24 years. Almost 24 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Not special. I just decided that the pain I was in prior to coming into recovery is worse than the pleasure I'm having now. There's no pain in.
Was it early recovery? Was it hard?
It wasn't hard, but I had to change my thinking, a complete rewire my brain. It's that point of if what were my motives for going. I was told by my sponsor, do a meeting every day. You drank every day, so why don't you do a meeting every day? The concept of giving my time back to meetings, not realising early days that would get me well, I tried to defend that by saying, "Oh, I can't do a meeting tonight," or "I've got something going on tonight."
Come up with the excuses.
Yeah, and in reality, my response is to do what you want, but ultimately, you do a meeting every day. 90 days and 90 meetings in 90 days is a term we use, which goes back to the original founder of AA. You know, you went to court, really. You know, you got arrested, you went to court, the judge would say, do 90 days in jail or go to 90 meetings. I believe that's where it came from. So I did the 90 meetings in 90 days, and wow, what a start for my recovery. You know, and the point being is that 90 meetings is great. And then after that, it wasn't a case of, right, I've done 90, I'm not going to do any. I realised that I needed to do 2 or 3, 4 a week, get a bit of service in meetings and move on from there, and I carried on.
So why, after 24 years almost of sobriety, do you still choose to connect with the meetings and take sponsees through the work? Why do you still do what you do today?
Self-preservation for me, just to stay sober, just, you know, to have a life. You know, it's I say this to all the sponsees, every sponsee I've had, which is hundreds and hundreds over the years. Not all have made it as well, by the way, but the ones who are coming, you know, as much as I'm sharing with them my experience, they're sharing theirs back. I get something from their experience. It takes me back. If I meet somebody at the first meeting, it takes me back to my first meeting. Remember how raw it was, how I didn't get it. I didn't understand. I'm in a meeting for the first time, 20, 30 people all saying to me, you know, if you do this, you won't drink again, or you won't drink for today. You know, there's a lot of ways you can look at it. I end up giving back because I know that's what I want to do. Stay sober. Before
recovery, what was your life like? Early days?
Chaotic.
We just touched before we started the podcast that you was a market stall trader. What was you deep in drink then? No. I started off as a kid. Didn't drink. Maybe I had an odd beer now and again, but there was none of that Friday night session, you know, and even though I was out with pals, none of that. I was focused on work. I mean, for me, I think I've got an addictive, but I know I've got an addictive personality. So whatever I touch on, I sometimes get over eager to carry it through. And I did that with work early days, not knowing I was addicted to work, you know, but me thinking, great, 7 days a week, love the stress, running around. Not anymore. Not a chance. Well, where do you think you became, or you realised you had a problem?
I never thought I had a problem. I thought the world had a problem and I was okay. That's the delusion I was under. And then there was a family intervention pulled together, and I was cornered. I was told, you know, you're killing us, not just yourself. I didn't realise, you know, I was, you know, void of any thoughts like that, any feelings. And I promised I'd stop, and I couldn't. I knew then I had a problem. After promising my father, my mother and family members I would stop. And then what happened, a mutual friend of the family had been sober 6 months, and he came to a family meeting, and I hadn't seen him for these 6 months. I didn't know what he'd done, I just knew I hadn't seen him. Turns out he'd got 6 months under his belt sober, and he said to me, you know, there's a way out of this. If you want to stop doing what you're doing, you need to do what I'm going to suggest now. And he took me to a meeting. And I remember going into the meeting and thinking, what is this about? All these people, you know, all had, you know, not happy faces, but they weren't, you know, looking at the floor, worrying about stuff. They just seemed okay. And he said to me, these people in here want you to get well. And I remember him saying to me, we'll love you until you can love yourself. Because I'd just lost all love for everything myself.
How did, from the first meeting, what kept you coming back?
I wanted to find out more about why I did what I did. You know, and things started to get better quickly. This is the great thing about recovery. If you put work in, you get the results out. I saw straight away things were changing. You know, I felt better. People started talking to me. You know, I'm not saying trust was there, far from it, but people were then starting to communicate with me again. I was brought back into the family fold. I was invited back into the family fold. And that's why I thought, you know, if I keep doing this, I was promised. If I kept doing what I was doing, things would get better. And we did.
How did it have an effect on your business?
It ruined it, in a nutshell. It ruined it. You know, I'd done really well, hence why I could really take time out to do what I did. I still had responsibilities, but I didn't look at that as a priority. And I was able to offload part of the business financially, so that gave me a pot of money to play with. I didn't have to go steal off the children. You know, people smashing piggy banks and that. I never did that. I didn't have to take money off anybody else. The bills still got paid. I was a functioning alcoholic, but in reality, it was all going pear-shaped. It was all going, and the responsibility of other people. I didn't even bring that into my thinking. That people that work with me, I was holding the fort together, to keep them to be able to pay their bills. I then go off a cliff. It all goes pear-shaped. But I didn't lose my business. I mean, this is part of my recovery. 5 years in to recovery, everything felt great internally and externally. It looked okay. But it was 2007, 2008-ish is when with the credit crunch.
Yeah.
And I was saying this, the bank manager's great, but he wants his umbrella back when it rains. And times were hard. The banks called in everything that was owed, and I had to, salvage what I could. Fortunately, I didn't pick a drink up. I didn't get into any mischief. The family still stayed strong around me, and I did what I could. But I lost my business. I remember going to my sponsor saying to him, "It's not fair. I've put 5 years into my recovery, working hard for me and the family and the business, and it's all gone." He went, "Yeah, you've not had a drink, have you?" I said, "No." He said, "So things are good." And that is as simple as it can be. And then we roll the clock forward now, I don't know, 16, 17 years, 18, whatever it is since that happened. And I believe I'm back on top. I'm working hard and things are good.
Early days, Simon, if you don't mind me asking, because I'm actually asking you guys personally, because as one business owner to another, early days when you was going from a market stall to a mill, before you had a problem with drink, was your ego sky high?
Oh yeah. I was untouchable. I was the man. I'd walk around like I own the world. And it was wrong. It was
I can resonate with that an awful lot.
It was all wrong, and realise to be humbled is so much nicer. I'm not saying I would put people up business wise, but I was ruthless. It was my deal or no deal, and it isn't like that today. It doesn't have to be like that today. I can get on and I can do business with people, and I always use the analogy that if I take the bread off your plate, you've got nothing to eat. If you take the bread off my plate, I've got nothing to eat. So I'll leave you with some bread as long as you leave me with some bread. That way we can stay in business. That's the way I see it. That's
I like that. How does it look back from early days drinking to you struggling? I know you've just touched on 5 years sobriety. You lost one business. But let's talk pre-5 years. So coming into recovery, all the chaos and your responsibilities shifted. What's the difference, other than working a tight program? What's the biggest difference you notice in yourself, as in how you manage your life and business today?
I got a structure. I was consistent with the structure. So it was all suggestions from my sponsor. I've only ever had one sponsor since I came into recovery. I got hold of him and he just said, "We can't mess about with this. If you want what I've got," hence why I wanted to be with him, because he had something I wanted. "You need to do this, this, this and this." And the fundamentals were, you need to get up in the morning and you need to go out into the world and, be a productive member of society. Stop being the way you were, because it didn't do you any good. It just turned into chaos and nightmare. And I started doing it, and I built my business up from there, but built my personality. I started to love myself again. I'd lost all love.
Was it a while, Simon, before, or did it just come naturally, before you prioritised the business? Did you have to prioritise recovery first and then the business followed?
100%. Yeah. It was a case of I was in recovery. I couldn't put my family first. I couldn't put the business first. I had to put recovery first because logically everything else would become part of that as well. So I wasn't selfish to the family. I wasn't selfish to the business. But I used self-preservation for me, and that's what I was explained to. You know, if I used to go out every night drinking, so if I went out to a meeting every single night, when I got for 90 days I did. I explained that, but I wasn't with my partner. We'd split, and the kids had been taken away to live with her. So when I'd actually got things back in order, and I was reliable, you know, and I believed in myself, I was then able to say the 90 meetings in 90 days. Then I would do 2, 3, 4 meetings a week, depending on what I wanted to do really. So the other nights I could go and see the children. I could pick them up from school. I could take them swimming. I could take them, you know, back to the mother's house. I didn't live with me, and then within 18 months, probably less, probably 12 months, they were able to come and stay with me at the weekend. So it became pretty normal in respect to the split family. I was trusted with the children again, but that's only because I took care of me. Yeah. You know, so priorities weren't just one and only. It had to be a mix of balance. So I think I use this in the main share most of the time, that if I find equilibrium, home life, work life and recovery life, I've got a life. That's how I find it.
But early days, you've just touched on your sponsor telling you things to do. How did you take that, being told what to do early days?
No, I needed to be told, because suggestions are what we usually say to sponsees. Here's a suggestion. My sponsor said, here's a suggestion, but you're going to do it. Because he knew my personality. I'm a great manipulator. I was a great manipulator. And I didn't want to be that manipulator. So I said, you've got carte blanche to tell me what I need to do. And I did.
And did you just remain willing?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's not a chance I was going to start tweaking the suggestions or the commands he gave me.
So, we've spoke a bit about early recovery and your business, and what was your fatherhood like pre-recovery?
Non-existent. I used to tell people, hey, look at me, I've got 3 kids. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, take them on holiday. I was still never with them on holiday. It was always a case of they were an inconvenience, you know. Horrible to say, not now. The flip side of it is now, I speak to them every day. Communicate with my children every single day.
You just mentioned one of your sons got married last year. How many sons have you got?
2 sons and a daughter.
2 sons and a daughter.
29-year-old son, 25-year-old daughter, and a 24-year-old son.
What's your relationship like today with them?
Fantastic, absolutely. Speak to me. My youngest boy, Spencer, he lives in London. He's a city boy now, living the city life, loves it. And speak to him every morning, 6:15, and usually in the evening, if I'm not in a meeting or he's not tied up too late, on the way home from work.
Lovely.
My daughter, she's got a great job, works in an office, Manchester, and I message her every morning. I've got a little message system I've got, not just with the kids, with everybody, recovery-wise, but I message my daughter every morning. She messages me back, and then we all get on with our day. And my eldest boy, now he's married, it's still connection, but it's not the same connection because he's got
He's got his own family now, yeah. Did you, well I know you did, but what was it like when you had to make your amends with them?
To be fair, making amends for the kids wasn't a major problem because they were babies, they were very, very young.
So it was more a living amends.
Yeah, my son was 4, my youngest son was 4 months old, 5 months old when I got sober. My daughter was 1, 18 months actually. And then my eldest boy, 4, 5, so they didn't get it, you know.
Yeah.
I think the flip side of it was, the bonus, not the amends as you mentioned, was all of a sudden I became part of their lives. That was the best bit. You know, because I wanted to be part of their lives. It was a case of what else can I do now? I've missed and messed about with all prior getting sober. I've now got these 3 children. I want to be part of their lives. My mother was a bit, hold on a minute, it was a bit terrifying from being, not wanting to be around and being elusive to all of a sudden wanting to be there. It was scary for her. She didn't know this new guy's turned up, meaning me, new person, old Simon, new Simon. It's 2 people. There's no comparable. I'd turn up on time, I'd be smart, I'd make sure the kids were back on time, they were ready for bed when it was time for bed, they were doing homework when it was homework. Structure was brought into it, which was sensible. So making the amends to the kids wasn't really a problem, because they didn't really understand spending time with them, I suppose, was the amends. Now the mother, that was a different situation, because I'd hurt her, I'd caused a lot of problem, a lot of rift, and I tried to sit down too soon. It's me making, I'm going to make amends, I'm well, you've got to, and it doesn't work like that. It's time, give time. I remember somebody at a meeting, I shared only one-on-one to this person about I'm having a problem with my ex and I'm trying to make amends and she's not accepting and she won't. And I was told, just slow down, write a letter. Don't just send the letter, write the letter, sleep on it, and then next day reread it, and you might add to, add and take away and so on, and I took that advice. So I suggest this to everybody now, and I still do it. If I need to speak to somebody and it's quite awkward, I'll write a handwritten letter. Not typed on a computer, not a text message, a handwritten letter. And remember giving the letter to my ex-partner, and whether she read it on the night, whether she wanted to score it up from it and then got it out, I don't know. But within about 6 weeks, she not half, but tried to understand my point of wanting to make amends. And she said, I'll listen to you. I'm not ready to forgive you, but I'll listen to you. And 24 years on, we're friends now. We're good friends. We laugh about this. She's now got a steady relationship, but while she was looking to move on, she'd ring me and we'd talk about the kids, and she'd ring me and she'd ask me, she'd met a guys like you, what should I do? I said, you know what to do, get rid of him. do not go there. We laugh about that now, but not at the beginning, not a chance.
So after nearly 24 years, what stopped you getting complacent?
Newcomers. Going to the meetings, seeing what it was like, reading literature, understanding. There's a story in the big book, I'm sure you've heard it, the guy who's 25 years sober. He didn't drink for 25 years, and then sold up, retired, put his carpet slippers on, and 2 years later he's dead. Because he drank himself to death. So I'm under no illusion that my addict is outside the door, getting stronger. I've got to stay strong inside, internally to work it.
Over them years, Simon, has there ever been a time where you thought that complacency has crept in and yet your illness has said to you, I'm well, I don't need to take people through the work today.
Yeah.
I can focus on my hobbies and my business, and I can lose that recovery from that balance that you've just mentioned.
100%, yes, but because I've got a great network of close friends and network, recovery friends, it's not going to happen. Because they won't let it happen, as I won't let them get the same way. So getting complacent is not easy when you've got friends that are true friends. And I'm not talking, I've got lots of true friends in recovery. They genuinely, if I'm travelling abroad, I send a message out every morning. And I send it out because I want to send it out. I don't have to send it out. And I send it out to probably 100 people, all individually sent, and I love doing it. And it's part of my morning routine, my consistency to keep well. I've had times if I'm on a plane or I'm going somewhere and I'm not been able to send them out as early as I would normally, I've had people, are you okay? What's happening? Is everything okay? That's the love of the fellowship. People being concerned that I'm not being...
They haven't had your message at 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Because you're in the air and...
Yeah, or I'm somewhere else.
Yeah. That brings me to... I know you've travelled the world, and I think this is more for a bit of hope of the newcomers, and I'm still very early on. My obsession has been removed, but that complacency I've just asked you about crept into me, and I know it creeps into a lot of people. But today, you go watching your favourite football team, and we've in pre-conversation we've had a chat about you travelling the world and etc. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Listen, I've worked a lot of hours, and I've now got to the stage in life where holidays are important. To enjoy. And we travel away, and I say this in every share I do that's relevant to that, is if I'm going on holiday, I put my recovery in my suitcase first. It's not a case of let's leave that at home because I'm going away. Take it with me. And in the early days of going away, whether it be Spain or Portugal or wherever I went, I would find a meeting list. I would have a meeting to go to, and I would make sure I went to that meeting because that was in my routine. It'd be a Monday, Tuesday, whatever night it was. I would always ask my partner first, would you mind if I went to a meeting? And 99.9% of the time it's yes, go. If we booked something to go somewhere else, then it would have to stop. I would look at that as a situation. So I would always use it. Now, I take a meetings list with me or find where the meetings are, and I don't have to go unless I want to go. Yeah. It's a nice situation to be in, to have a choice. Today, I don't have to do anything, I choose to do it. So, I've been to meetings, I'm trying to think where now. Portugal, I went to a Portugal meeting, did everything but read the bottom of it, Portuguese speaking. I don't speak Portuguese, went to a meeting, they're only speaking Portuguese. I nod yes and, hello. I'm sat there thinking, I don't know what they're saying, but I know it's recovery based. It was a full meeting, but in Portuguese, all the Portuguese cards instead of English writing. And at the end of it, it was amazing. I was honoured. They asked me to say the Serenity Prayer in English. To take the Serenity Prayer through in English. Came away with
amazing.
A Portuguese key ring as a memento. That's the beauty of the fellowship. Yeah. It's worldwide and never have to be on my own anywhere in the world.
So recovery was always the first thing in your suitcase?
Yeah.
Football, let's talk a little bit of football.
Yeah.
Lighten it up a little bit.
Born a Manchester boy, Manchester United was my first team. And then a friend of mine decided to buy our football team in a mad moment about 5 years ago, and he bought Macclesfield. He bought them out of receivership to face a businessman, and he said to me, "Go and have a look at what I bought." I went down and I've been hooked ever since. So, yeah. I follow them home and away. I've not missed many games over the last 5 years. I have missed games because of commitments, of family commitments or holidays as such. But I follow them home and away. I work with the team because not all the lads in the team are going to be straight. So
I don't know your whole story. Like I said, Simon was at my first meeting. We've connected a couple of times over the meetings. For clarity, is there ever a moment, Simon, where you're doing something like that and your ego can creep back in and you can say, look, I'm at my mate's football pitch? Or do you always remain humbled, or do you still have that illness trying to creep back out?
I personally think I'm humbled because I'll speak to people, and that's what I want to do. I don't walk around like the big I am, VIP'd up, sitting in nice seats at the football, eating nice food at the football, but I also stand with the lads when it's time to stand with the lads. I'm talking about the fans, and that's what I do. And they often say to me, I don't go around with this big, recovery sign on the top of my head. I just go to the football and I'm able to look at my motives. What am I there for? I'm there to watch the game. I'm not there to get tanked up. I was at a game yesterday, it was a poor kid there. I don't know, he would have been 14 or 15. He's with the big lads and they're drinking and he decides to drink within, 20 minutes. I think kick-off for 10 minutes after, he's throwing up in the corner, just completely comatose. Now, I didn't see this until it was too late, but I got hold of one of the ringleaders of the flat. I said, get hold of him now, take care of him, because he's a kid, he thinks he's with the big boys. Now I can see that from what it is. Now the lads who were drinking didn't. Yeah. That's the difference, What do? I go to the football and my motives are to watch the football.
How does the recovery process evolve over the years?
Routine, I've got to get a routine, got to get my meetings, whole group. Phone numbers is, lifesaver. It's a we program, not an I program. So I've got more people in my life now than I've ever had. They're genuine people, and all over the place. It's not just a case of I use the same 4 or 5 people. In fact, I was sat in the meeting with you on Friday night, and both lads either side are sponsees of mine, both coming in share straight away. It's like they beat me to it, and that's the format I say to them. I go to meetings, I share at meetings respectfully and honestly. And I don't just share about the bullshit of real life. That's what's going on for me. That's what it's about. I say this to everybody and every time I'm in a meeting. I keep it simple and I'm in the middle. And I've never left the fellowship. I was told early days. I remember my first meeting.
Have you ever relapsed?
No.
Amazing.
No, just decided that the pain was bad enough, and that's what it is. I sit down with lads who do the step work, and we'll do a step 1. And they're horrendous, the step 1s, and it's like, wow, the pain in that step 1 from the person I'm sat with. 6 weeks later, they've gone out and had a drink. and will come to me like, turn between the legs, I've relapsed. I said, well, you're step one, I'm not going to relapse because of your step one, so why are you doing it? It happens. I've not forgot the pain of my last debacle, my last chaotic day in using. I remember it, the 11th of August 2002, that was a painful day. I wasn't suicidal, I was still in my house, but it was horrible. It was a beautiful day and I got the curtains closed. Why? There's no sense in that. I look back now and think, wow, how deluded was I to think that was pretty normal. It's not good.
Simon, it's been a privilege to have you sat with me on the couch today. Have you got a message for the viewers today? Anybody
who's still in the madness and sees this through a family member or a friend, there is a way, that there is a choice you can take to not be in the madness. The solution is working with other people, and anybody who's found recovery in the nutshell, just keep going because it gets better. I know I was promised by my sponsor, if you keep doing this, you will get better. Your life will become better. Things will just change. By default, you put the drink down, you get better, and that's what I've done. And I still look for it every day. How can I be better today than I was yesterday? What else is going to be out there that I can find? I'm as excited today with my recovery as I was when I came in. I'm a lot more knowledgeable, I suppose, is the difference. That's the only thing. When I read the big book or when I'm doing stuff with my recovery, it's not a chore. This is not like going to play golf, with a golf membership, or joining the gym and not turning up, or not wanting to play around a golf because you've got the fancy golf clubs and not turning. This is real life for me. This is the simplest thing I've done in a lot of respects, but the hardest thing as well.
Yeah.
Change my ways, and it's a membership. There's no cost to being this member, this club. There's a cost to your life if you don't get in it. I suppose that. I've seen so many people who need this and have decided they didn't want it, and they died. That's what it is. So for me, in the middle, yes, keeping it simple, very simple, and then enjoying life. The bridge to normal living. Got a life today because of this. Saving life.
Well, thank you very much, Simon.
Come on. Cheers, Bill.
Guys, thank you for watching. If you've got this far, as always, I'm not here to preach, tell anyone how recovery works. You've just heard it from a man that's celebrating 24 years, how he's got to 24 years and what a life he's got back today, albeit it's Macclesfield.
Yeah.
But he did say his first team was Man United, and now I'll let him off following Macclesfield being sat on my couch. But guys, thank you for watching episode 11. As always, big love.